Alrighty, so here's what we got, guys. Alright, so this is Windows 8. Every time you start up Windows 8, this is the screen you're going to end up with, right? So I had you all make local accounts mostly because I didn't want to register this with Microsoft. But one of the things that we're going to do, right, is we're going to go to the desktop. And I want you to go here to the little start down here at the bottom, and then right-click it. And I want you to go to Command Prompt Admin. And we're going to say yes, because it's going to pop up the, are you sure you want to do this? All right. -64. cscript.exe Winder %1 system 32 slm.vbs IPK, and followed by a product key CV, and hold on, I'm going to go over this here in a minute. F9 TW CV PG2 HF92. All right, so if we're lucky, if we're really lucky, this command will work here, and it's called cscript.exe space Winder with parentheses in front of it. All right, followed by /system32. Nope, type it exactly like I have it here. So that's a yeah, that's a percentage sign. cscript.exe space %Winder %. If you want to look up at the screen, you can.
If I could read it, I would.
Okay. No.
System 32. I got that. That's your cursor. /
Figures. There we go.
There we go. Yay!
All right. So cscript.exe %Winder %, /system32 / Sierra Lima Michael Golf Romeo .vbs / IPK, followed by this following lab key CV and F9 -TW TWBCV /9PG2K 9PG2K / DPTMD Delta Papa Tango Michael Delta -X-Ray Hotel Fox 92.
Don't hit enter. Please do not hit enter.
Who, me?
You.
I want to hit.
Beyond the nine. But there's something else.
TW Bravo Charlie Victor -9 Papa Golf 2 Kilo Delta Papa Tango Michael Delta -X Hotel Fox 92. Everybody got that?
Charlie, scroll over just for a second. There's this car insurance commercial for Navy Federal. I love Navy Federal. And they have
9 Papa Golf 9 PG
yes, you are correct. They have this one
2K.
guy- there was one guy standing there, and he's explaining his vehicle was trashed or whatever, yada yada yada. Long story short, he ends up saying like, I needed a new mode of transport ASAP. That's Alpha, Sierra, Alpha, and they kind of stood there for a minute. He's like, hey, cool. And it turns out it was his sister or whatever that had the 80 federal, and he got the benefits or whatever.
Okay, so everybody got this? What are we waiting on? What are we waiting on?
Mango whiskey for Alpha Charlie.
Oh, it's here. You can't see it right
The rest of them, that's why you're not seeing. Enter.
Yep, hit enter. If we did this right, it will register your copy of Microsoft Windows. Install product key successfully. CVN, F9, TWBC, 9PG2K, DPT, MD, X8, F92. Right? So if you did this right, this is what you should see, the install product key. Who all got this message? 1, 2.
I got it.
Okay.
Go back and check it. Can you come out? Script that system 32 /S/.
So what's on your
BR.ES space / IUK space. Oh, I see my error.
Okay.
Evidently I missed
I jacked the font up so you guys could actually see this thing.
everything's supposed to go?
Yeah. So if you guys want to change the font on yours, if you just go down here to properties and you go to font, right? You can just go ahead and muck about with whatever, as long as you've got it, right? But again, that just changes the dimensions of the screen. There's really no way to
Okay.
pull this out and make it look good. But if you need to have the key, it's right here. If you need the key, it's right here. And you need to install product key, CVN F9. Right? So this is going to be your command, and then that's the key you type in afterwards.
Where you at? Yeah.
Your key's right here. Okay.
Or it'll tell you that it's an error.
All right, so everybody's here, and we're good, and we're happy, and life is wonderful. All right. All right, so I'm going to ask some questions for you. What does this command do? Which way? Up or down? What does that command do? No.
Changes to the users directory.
All right, is there a users directory?
I don't think so.
Did I misspell it?
Yeah. You were in Linux.
All right. What does that command do?
It lists what's in the directory.
Okay. What does that command do? Nope.
CDs, it changes to that directory public where you're at.
All right. How do I find out what's in that folder? Okay. How do I get back to root from here?
CD dot. Oh, CD slash, okay.
Yep. Right. How do I check out and see what the IP address is?
IP.
How do I check and see what in the ARP tables?
What's what?
How do I find out what's in the ARP tables? ARP what?
A. Oh.
All right. How do I find out what the net biostatistics are? No. What else did I need with that?
And a switch.
Yeah. Well, which one? I have a whole bunch here.
That's
S. No connections. Okay. So, how do I look up Google.com from here?
NS lookup space Google.com.
Okay. What is a non-authoritative answer?
No.
NS lookup and
Well, what does the non-authoritative answer mean?
it means
It means that the DNS server has more than one entry to successfully get you to Google.com.
okay.
Right. So, how do I look up Bing? Just type in Bing. Bing dot what? All right. So how come I only have one IP address for Bing that's non-authoritative, but I have like 10 for Google?
Because that's how they're set up. So you want Google has a lot more than Facebook.
Well, what is it indicative on the network?
There's a lot going on Google.
A lot more people use Google than use Bing, right? Because if I only have one for Bing, right, that tells me that it's not used that often in the DNS server, right? So how do I find the route from here to Bing.com?
Trace
What?
trace route.
How do you spell it?
TRACERT.
All right, so how does traceroute work? If I have a maximum of 30 hops, what's going on here?
It's gone through the entire.
What protocol does traceroute use? You are correct, ma'am. What is a TTL?
Time to live.
What does the TTL do in terms of traceroute?
It will only go so far, and then it will stop.
Okay, and how far will it go?
30 hops.
30 hops. What does 30 hops mean?
That means it goes from router to router.
30 different devices. Right. Okay. So what does it mean when request is timed out?
It means that it's stopped. We can't proceed.
It's taking too long to find it.
No. What does it mean? If I have a request timeout, what does that tell me about the configuration of the gear that it's trying to talk to? Doesn't respond pings. Exactly. It will not accept pings. Right? So if you have your request timed out set, that means they actually did some network security here and made it so that I'll still hopping, but it won't respond to the ping. So I don't know where it's hitting after it hit 10.022. Right? So
But
this.
it's still going to go through the 30 hops.
Oh yeah.
Recording this.
So what does the address 10.022 actually mean? Is that public or private IP address space? Private IP address space. There are 3 different kinds of private IP address space. What are they?
10, 172, and 192.
192, 168.
169.
So that number that resolved to Bing 131, 253, 33, 200. How do we find out who owns it? No. How do we find out who owns it?
I go to Google and
Okay.
I use one of those little applications. I think it's Where Is or Who Is.
Okay.
Yeah. And put that IP address.
Not on Windows without screen.
I've learned something there.
I'm sorry.
Learned something.
Nice. Nice job, too.
All right.
That's what I mean.
So, what does the organization name mean? Who owns it? That is correct. And then their city and their state. Now, if I was an evil person and they left the name, the email address knock@microsoft.com, what could I do with that?
Hijack?
I could subscribe them to every single email, listserv, everything on the face of the planet. What about abuse@microsoft.com? Could I do the same with that?
Yeah.
How about abuse@msn.com?
I don't see why you could.
Okay. How about iprrms@microsoft.com?
That's a text email. But why couldn't you still
Yeah. So the problem with having a real good valid point of contact is that spammers will scrape these. And I bet the amount of spam that these email addresses at knock and abuse and all the rest of it actually get a ton of email just because of that.
Why did someone do it?
Because usually they're about the age of 12 and they want to stick it to the man. So I'm going to flood their abuse desk with a bunch of weird subscriptions to 4chan
So they just
and
put
Tumblr.
it in and
I'm going to subscribe them to every Tumblr blog that allows subscription.
Can't they find you? Can't they find you that way, or is it just lost in the
It's just lost in that ozone. Right. So if I'm at Hop 21 and request timed out, what does that tell you?
It's still got 84 to go.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff in the way, and that it's just not going to work here. Right? We're not going to get anywhere in this room.
Will it stop at 30?
Yeah. Unless I do what? Control C. All right. What other command lines did we learn that I need to do here? So we did NS lookup, we did MBT stat, we did ARP.
ARP-A.
Uh-huh. What happens if how do I tell if the gateway's up?
Isn't that MBT stat?
Yeah. So we do that. So we find out what our IP address is, and we find out what our default gateway is, 10.022. Ping 10.2.2. All right. So what does that tell me? That my gateway is up and running.
That's your gateway's up and running.
Uh-huh. Can I do that? Ew, what happens if the request times out if I want to check and see if someone's alive? What does that tell me about the network? That all the equipment is set up not to respond to pings, just to go ahead and drop them right there at the gateway or after the gateway. So if it's 100% lost, should I go ahead and try to get to Bing anyways? Is there a way to figure this out? Now that we already know that Bing actually exists because I went there. Right? So sometimes if you want to check and see something that's going on, if you can't get to it one way, there's always a different way of getting there, right? So if ICMP is blocked anywhere in the network, you just try via TCP, right? By using another thing to get there. Right? So there's always ways of figuring out who, what, where, why, when, and how in terms of trying to get from point A to point B. Right? There's always different ways to the protocol stack to kind of do this. So does anybody remember how do I get to the command console from the desktop? What do I have to do?
I'll go down to the left-hand corner.
Uh-huh.
Click.
Oops. Look for this little start thingy.
Yep.
If I can. All right, this is called hand-eye coordination. It will actually decrease as you get older. All right, and then we can go into computer management, device manager, disk management, system, event viewer, any kind of power programs and features. So all the things that we would otherwise have, right? And yesterday we went trolling through the control panel. So if everybody wants to bring up the control panel from the desktop. So one of the interesting things, and this is something you're going to see, is set up family safety for anybody. Right? So if you go into here and you go into user accounts and family safety, and then set up family safety for any user. Right? PC administrator with no password. Let's create a new user account. All right, we want to apply family safety to them. So their email address is someone@bing.com, just to kind of see what happens. Right? Or no. Actually, we want to sign in without a Microsoft account. So we want to do a local account. So the username, let's make my wife's life a little bit more difficult. Or whoever your significant other is. If you have a child, go ahead and put your child's name in there. And then click on next. Right? And yeah, it's a child's account. So we're going to turn on family safety to get reports on their PC use. All right, always fun. All right, so that's kind of part of the parcel of this, right? Is now it's going to ask you who you want to log in as. All right, so when you go in this, and then we can manage family settings, right? And we want to continue using a local account. Wow, that didn't work. Why not?
Because you weren't allowed.
Because I didn't tie it to a Microsoft account, right? And that's the big thing here, is that if you want to engage any of the family safety features, it has to be through a Microsoft account, right? It has to be only through a Microsoft account. So if you set them up with a Microsoft email address, right, your child's going to have a Microsoft email address maybe. If you're not a hipster, if you're not cool, if you're really cool, your child will have a Gmail account. Yeah. Okay. But no, follow along. We're just doing this as local right now. All right, we're doing everything as local. Everything is local right now. So if you signed up for a Microsoft account, go back and make yourself a local one so you end up here. All right?
Is that what you're saying about the email account?
I would like you to create a local account on your Windows 2008 box, please. All right, so you go create a new account from here. Hey, Deborah, follow along. You create a new account from here. Watch the screen. All right, we want to sign in without a Microsoft account. All right, we want to create a local account. Put in the username. Joe Bob, because I like Joe Bob. All right, and it's just a local account. And then is this a child's account? Yes. Right, and then click on finish. All right, so now we have Joe Bob, and he has family settings saved up. All right, now if we want to create a new user, right, and we want to sign in next, what it should do is ask you for a Microsoft account. So even if you put in something else, you have to sign up for a Microsoft account. All right.
Do you want us to do something like this?
You can. All right, I'm just trying to walk through this, right, and then go ahead and put in a password. Of course, I'm going to send them into the wrong address, right? And what it does is it goes through and puts in all the extra stuff that you may want to do. Secret question, best childhood friend, imaginary, right? So again, there's things that they want you to know about and do. They're really going to get picky about your birth date, right? So again, I was born in March 1905. That makes me what? 108 years old. Right? All right. So next. All right. Ooh, I want promotional offers now. Yep. So, if you do the wrong thing, you actually already have to have a Microsoft account to do all this. All right. So if you don't know what your child's Microsoft account is, then you're doomed. If you try to get your child to have a Microsoft account and he doesn't want one, you're doomed. Right? So that's kind of the interesting part about the whole family control system, is that it kind of is set up for doing certain things. You can set your ratings, because the movies and other stuff come out with other ratings. You can actually use all these really, really cool ones, whichever one you want to do. If you really want the Entertainment Software Rating Board, you can do that. We can always do Department of Justice. If we really want to, we can use some of the Australian ones, which are really interesting because Australia's got some of the most restrictive blocking policies on the face of the planet. They're almost more insane than China is.
What makes you look at these up and see what
France? Yeah. Yeah, so if you wanted to go see what was actually going on with that website, right? Interesting, 404. Wow. Looks like somebody did something silly. Right? But again, the interesting part, though, again, is that Australia has some of the most restrictive network policies found on the face of the planet. So it's good not to be an Australian. In the meantime, I want this to be my family TV watching night every night. Oh my God! Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, but again, you can go and try to figure all these things out as much as you want to. Most people are probably just going to go, this means nothing. Right? But you can actually do the Chinese one. You can do Department of Justice for China if you want, ESRB. Why would they put in all these different groupings for an American user?
Because in America, they're allowed to become people.
In America, your parents are allowed to do anything they want to you. All right. So, appearance and personalization, you can change the theme, and you can get all these really, really cool normal themes. If you want an earthy theme, flowers, everybody loves flowers. You can go ahead and change the color scheme around to whatever you want, right? You can go ahead and change all your Windows default sounds, if you so want to do so. You can also say no screensaver, if you want. You can also change your desktop icons if you want. So this is kind of interesting. So if you want to change any one of these icons, you can. So if you click on change icon, it gives you this really interesting thing, image res.dll. So these are all the images that your Microsoft computer stores as a compressed dynamic link library. Right? So you're actually cracking open a dynamic link library when you're doing this. This is really a huge throwback to Windows 95. All right, which I thought was interesting when I stumbled across this, and that you could literally go in and change everybody's icon over to a plane. Every single icon in their computer can become a plane. So you could actually really have some fun with people, especially if you do like something that makes it look like I'm going to delete something, right? So you could change everything over to be the checkmark delete icon. Or you can just really mess with people's brains with this, which is actually kind of fun. Change everything to a great big huge red X. Every single icon that they own to a great big huge shiny red candy coated looking red X.
My favorite is changing the icons to nothing.
Yes,
and
changing
then,
the icons to a blank screen.
And then changing the text to blank. No, with Windows 7 and onwards,
yep.
you can just hide the icons.
And if you're about to go through the airport, change all of them over to a lock like this. So if they decide to inspect your computer at the time, all they see is everything is locked. And that will literally confuse your TSA agent because they're barely passing high school in some cases. So if they see every icon on your desk as a lock button, they're gonna just pull you aside and want to ask you a couple questions for 4 or 5 hours. So if you, yeah, and they're not going to believe you when you say, "Well, I was just mucking about with the icons." So, yeah. So again, you can have some fun with things, right? There's all sorts of ways. You can also change the mouse pointer options if you want. So you can change all the mouse pointers over to busy all the time, which would be kind of fun, right? So again, tons of really kind of cool things that you can do with it. You can also change their display on them. So if they want smaller, medium, larger, how you want to do your tiles, right? Change all your tiles over to tooltips. All right. You can calibrate color. You can adjust the resolution. Right. So generic monitor, 1024 orientation landscape. So if you really want to mess with someone's brain, change everything over to portrait. Right. Or even better, portrait flipped.
Oh no.
See, and again, you'll see that it kind of disorients
I turned my computer.
that it kind of disorients the person because of how they're used to working with it. So again, you can really just kind of mess with people's.
This is why my wife says you're bad.
Yeah. All right. So again, you can just kind of have fun with stuff, right? Again, but it's good to know where everything is because if you remember things because they're being evil, you're going to remember this all the more so, right? If you want to change their text around, you can do that. Make it easier to read. Change all their display settings, all the rest of it, and then we go back home. You can change their language over. We can add a language. So if we want to add a language, we can do that. You know, again, we can really have a lot of fun if we change everything over to something else, especially that they can't read. You know, of course, my favorite one is Chinese. So if we do that and we add that language, all right, and then we can click on options here. Right, simple pin, checking availability, checking to see if the display will actually manage Chinese for me. No, Singapore is just different enough that if you're raised on Mandarin, you're going to have a hard time with Singaporean.
Because it's just a little bit different. So if we want to download it and install it, we can just go ahead and do that. If we want to change its location, right, we can change the home location over to, where's Kazakhstan? Kazakhstan. Change their computer location to a non-American computer. Everything else will actually play on their computer. So if you really want Blu-ray, change over some other location. Your Apple iTunes will have a really hard time. Why is that? And it may lock out all of the certificates. If you guys want to go ahead and change it back to America, that's perfectly fine. But again, you can have some fun with it. And then if we go back to Control Panel Home, programs, they install and uninstall just like anything else. So if you go into Programs and Features, it's all going to look the same as it looks across the board. Alright, so it's going to say that there's no programs because basically it's just basically flat install. We can also go back and view the installed updates for anything, if there are any uninstalled updates on this. So basically, if you want to see if an update was installed, click on Windows features on or off. Alright, so these are all the things. If I want to install something new, right, I can do that. I can install Active Directory on this. I can install IIS on this. Yes, you can do a lot of things with it. You can also do message queuing, network projection, print program, remote access. You can actually put this on the regular network to do RIP, routing, right? NFS, network files or netware file system, simple network management, SNMP, TCP IP. If you do this, remember it makes it tons more hackable, so don't ever turn on simple TCP IP. Telnet server, TFTP client, lots of things that you can do with this, right? You can actually turn on TIFF files, because that's where a lot of photographers work. There are lots of cool things that you can do. Yeah. So if we do Internet Information Services, right? We can turn on an FTP server, we can turn on web management and World Wide Web services, so let's do that. And it should ask for the disk if I'm really smart on this one. Because it shouldn't cache everything. Yeah, but it won't handle the load, right? If you want a server, load up a server. So, nope, that means it had everything in cache. Because what it does, it tries to cache the disk more so that you don't have to be swapping in and out DVDs all the time. And then all of a sudden, your computer is a web server. So how do I get to my web server once it's done installing? What do I want to do? How do I make sure that my web server installed correctly? Where do I go?
I said ID contact.
No. What program do I use? What's the program I use to check and see if my web server is working correctly? No, I want to see if my web server is working correctly. What program do I use? No?
What you call it? Internet Explorer?
Yes, I use a browser. What's my URL?
Localhost.
Localhost, that is correct. So once this thing's done installing, hopefully everyone's following along here. Right? If you're not, go ahead and install IIS for me.
Where is I at?
You're
Option you chose here.
I'll come down and help you here in a minute.
Okay.
All right, so this is going to take a minute to install. And when it's done, right, we can go close. And then I want to test to make sure that it's actually working. So I'm going to type in localhost.
I got it. Internet Information Services.
Yep. And then boom, there I am. All right, so everybody got this?
Not working on the rest.
Oh, we're supposed
Okay.
to actually do the server?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking you guys were following along with me.
Well,
I know, me thinking again is a bad thing.
IS Management Service.
IIS. Hold on. I'll get to you in a minute. All right, I will follow along here.
No.
All right, your project after this is you remember how to write a web page?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to write a web page then.
That says, "Sorry, Jerry, I can't open the pod bay doors now."
Okay.